Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about ear and otoscopic exams because we have a standardized patient coming to you live from my sister's house. My standardized patient is experiencing some ear pain and a little bit of bleeding because he was using a Q-tip and might have jammed it a little too far into his ear. The official recommendation for using Q-tips, even though it feels good to put the Q-tip all the way into your brain, is to only swab around the pinna of the ear and around the conch of the ear. It should not go past that. If you have a lot of itching like I do because of allergies, or you have more wax production than the typical person, which is totally normal, I would recommend using something either called Debrox, which is kind of like hydrogen peroxide, and that will dissolve the earwax. Or you can buy an ear irrigator. I have one. I will bring it and show you. This is a Welch Allen otoscope, ophthalmoscope combo. They are not cheap. They are a weapon though. Let me show you. They're incredible. Comes with the ophthalmologic piece, which is detachable, and then you have the otoscopic piece. You can buy replaceable tips to keep it sterile. These are actually replaceable. I think I lost all of the reusable ones, and this is the base. The coolest part about this one, it plugs into the wall. Isn't that cool? So what you want to do, make sure it's charged. This is the ophthalmologic piece. This is the otoscopic piece. You're gonna place it. Here's the piece. They have different sizes, so if you're having trouble inserting this piece into the patient's ear canal, you need to go down a size. A lot of times, especially with kids, it's gonna hurt when you're trying to do the ear exam. If the patient is a child, what I often have the patient's mother or father do is hold the patient's head to their chest. This is an otoscope. I will perform an exam on an adult patient and a child. This otoscope tip is wider than what I would normally use, especially for kids, because the ear canals can be smaller. If the child has an ear infection, they're going to be really unhappy about you putting this into their ear. So I'll show you on my nephew, Oliver. He has his own YouTube channel. Check it out in this link right here. He loves video games, so do I. So if you want a break from learning about medicine and you want to learn about Mortal Kombat, hit us up. He's also going to be sporting my new favorite brand, clothing, as a brand ambassador. And you can check out my link in the comments below and in this link right here for 15% off your order if you use code STORM. We love as one. Check us out on Discord. So, this is an otoscope. It has there's a dial if it's blurry. I don't really use this. There's a dot, it's green, and I line it up to the green line and I can see fine. I don't know. You push this button down and the light comes on. What you want to do when you're inserting this into the patient's ear canal is you want to first ground your hand against their face, because nothing is going to be worse than if you accidentally perforate their tympanic membrane while trying to look in their ear. So you'll start with your dominant hand, is which one you want to use this with. And I have found that it is easier to control it if you have your pinky out, put the pinky against the patient's face, and that way you can drive with the rest of your hand this way. You can also go like this, but it's not as natural for me. So if you hold it upside down and tilt it, also, you want to take the patient's pinna, or the top of their ear, the cartilage, pull it back. That way you're going to give yourself a little more purchase when you insert the otoscope into the patient's ear. At that point, you're going to switch from looking into the patient's ear with your eyeballs, and you're going to use your otoscope, and you'll just need to kind of center your face around where the otoscope is, but you want to keep your pinky out and touching the patient's face so that you don't accidentally push it in too far, like a Q-tip, and perforate their tympanic membrane, because that is not something you want to do as a provider or as a student doctor or as a student PA. Do not perforate someone's tympanic membrane. Just don't do it. I have a lot of scar tissue from mine because I used Q-tips too much as a kid, and I had a lot of allergic sinusitis, serous otitis issues from just not taking antihistamines. So, yeah, that is the otoscope. The ophthalmoscope is also very cool. Take out the head. Switch it. Two-Headed Mother by Ethel Cain, except it's my otoscope / ophthalmoscope. We love Ethel Cain in this household. Mother. This is for if you want to do a retinal exam. I think it's called a fundoscopic exam. Fundoscopic exam. So this is an otoscope. This is to do fundoscopic exams, check the retina, check the pupil. You can check for signs of macular degeneration. You can check for signs of retinal detachment, vitreal hemorrhage, and glaucoma. It has a dial on the back of it. So you push this green button down, turn it. The dial, I can't remember exactly what it does. We're just going to put it to 7. 7 is neutral. I don't know. And this one is a little more confusing and complicated. What you want to do is when you're looking into the patient's eye, you don't want to put it exactly into their eyeball. It will blind them. You don't want that. You want the patient to be looking just past your shoulder, whichever eye you're looking into. Say you're looking into the patient's left eye. Tell them to look over your right shoulder. Then you want to come in from the nose side, and you want to start looking like this. And you're going to need to pull up their eyelid because you're going to see that it's going to be halfway covered. The window into their retina is through the pupil. But you don't want to go exactly to the center because it will blind them, and then they will have floaters in their vision. So you want to come in from the side and pull their eyelid up, and you want to start in the back corner, top right quadrant, and then you want to scan to the left quadrant, down to the lower left quadrant, and then to the right quadrant. Do not put it into the middle of the fovea. You want to just take a look. You'll be able to see all of the vasculature in the retina. You'll be able to see if there are signs of glaucoma, which would be cupping of the optic disc. That I will post pictures of. It has been a long time since I've worried about retinas. A retinal detachment is better seen with an ultrasound, and it looks like a flappy curtain rather than all nice and uniform. You can check for macular degeneration. If it's wet macular degeneration, you'll see something called drusen spots, but I think that the retinal vitreous hemorrhage has a bloody thunder appearance, which I thought was a cool name because my name is Storm. Bloody Thunder. So, I'm an orthopedist. I haven't used this thing in a long time. No. This is Kurt. He's our standardized patient for today. We love Kurt. He is my brother-in-law, basically. Which ear's bothering you?
This one.
So we'll start with the normal side. When you have a patient with a unilateral complaint, you want to start by looking at the normal anatomy so you can compare it to the other side, because my ear canal looks like my ear canal and his is going to look different because we're all snowflakes. So I'm going to look on the left side first. You turn. It's on. Perfect. No, it's back on. All right, we're live. Okay, so first, what you're supposed to do with an ear exam is you'll ask if they have any penile tenderness. Any pain?
No.
Do you have any pain here?
No.
No tragal tenderness? No penile tenderness? And
Nope.
then back here, no conch tenderness?
Nope.
So the way I prefer to do this is if you flip it upside down and turn it to the right. If you're left-handed, I would flip it to the left. But this is how you want. Pinky needs to touch the patient's face before you insert the otoscope into their ear canal. That way you have a grounding area so you don't stab it through their tympanic membrane and perforate it, because that is probably a lawsuit and you will be really upset.
What you're looking for is a pearly gray tympanic membrane with a light reflex in the left ear at about 7 o'clock position. I don't see any erythema or pallor, which would be indicative of an otitis. Externa is swimmer's ear, otitis externa is swimmer's ear, and you would have pallor in the external canal with some like flaky skin, boggy.
And otitis media, you would have an inflamed tympanic membrane with sometimes purulent effusion behind the tympanic membrane when you've got pus behind the eardrum. Yikes, that's when you need oral antibiotics. Otitis externa would be an external ear infection where you would require only drops. Sometimes people can have both. You need to have oral antibiotics for the otitis media, and you need to have topical antibiotics for the otitis externa. Let's see which one Kurt needs. We're back for the pathological side, the right side. The pathological side is the bad side over the sinister side. Okie-dokie. So you have no penile tenderness, and you have no tracheal tenderness.
Oh, it is bloody, Kurt. Looks like you have a scrape in your canal from the Q-tip. Is that painful?
Yeah. Well, nothing you're doing. Sometimes.
Looks like a little hematoma, actually. So what I'm seeing when I look in his canal is I see a pearly silver tympanic membrane with a light reflex at the 4 o'clock position, which is normal for the right side. I don't see any purulent effusion. I don't see any perforations in the membrane. I don't see any erythema of the tympanic membrane. I don't see any bogginess or pallor in the tympanic membrane or the external canal. What I see about a centimeter into the external canal is what looks to be a hematoma with a little bit of blood pooled at the base of the external membrane, which just looks like a blunt trauma, probably from a Q-tip when he was trying to clean his ear out. So I'm just going to prescribe him some Otic drops to use, and we are going to have him irrigate his ear 3 times daily with an ear irrigator. Check out the link right here for the irrigator that I found on Amazon, and if you purchase it through my affiliate link, you'll get a discount. So
I'm the director. I say action.
this is the irrigator. I'll post the link right here on my Amazon link tree. Use my code and you'll get a discount. Do it. It has a couple of pieces that you can use interchangeably. This piece is bendy. I'm gonna get rid of his face there. There you go. This is a bendy piece so you can insert into the external membrane without harming it, as he has with a Q-tip. And it has a basin you can fill with warm or cold water. It's going to be best to use warm water when you're irrigating an ear, because if you use cold water, you can accidentally induce vertigo. Not fun. So now that I've said that, this is cold water. I'm going to go get warm water.
Thanks.
We have switched to warm water as to not induce peripheral vertigo and horizontal nystagmus. Messing with Kurt's vestibular system. Okay, probably you may want to hold your hair up or put it up so that I don't get bloody water in it. I also have, it comes with the kit. There is a little bulb so that you can blow the air into the ear to dry it so that you don't leave water in there to get all gross and itchy. All right, so you want to lean your head into the basin. Normally a kidney basin would be better, but we don't have that here. We have a regular basin. Does that feel okay? All right, and it's got a couple different settings. Yeah. Does it hurt?
No.
Just
Just
scary.
surprising.
Lean your head a little more to the right. Good.
Good smells.
It does. You're at the spa. I don't know what you could DIY about it. I guess we're doing that right now. How's it feel?
Like water hitting my eardrum.
That is right. How about now? All right.
Fine.
So that was pretty much all of the basin, and you get just so happens 0.3% of ofloxacin otic solution. Just confirm with your patient that they don't have any allergies. This otic solution cannot be put into the eyes. Make sure when you're prescribing eye antibiotic drops that they are of the ophthalmic solution, because that is sterilized and distilled, where this doesn't have to be as pure because it's going into your ear, not your eyeball. This will be, let me double check, I think it's 3 times daily, 1 to 2 drops in the affected ear for 3 to 5 days. With him, I think we're just gonna do 3 days because I don't see any evidence of infection. It's just a small cut. I just wanna make sure that he doesn't get an infection after the fact, because he does have a disruption of the mucosa. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know if you all liked this video or if you wanna go back to talking about bones. I haven't done an otic exam in years, probably. I think it's been like 2 years since I've done an ear exam, so it was a good refresher for me. And we can do all kinds of standardized patient exams for practice if you all need help or need someone to model them so that you feel a little more comfortable before your exams.